Hello, everyone. I am Professor Marcos Santos, and I coordinate the activities of the Operational Research House. And today, we are going to learn about PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1 method and how to use the PSM1 system, where we can calculate the results from the method, even if we don't know so much math or so much operational research. Hello, Professor. How's it going?
I'm good, and you?
Today, my guest is Mr. Miguel Ângelo Leles Pereira, production engineer and research in mathematical modeling and computing at Naval System Analysis Center of Brazilian Navy, performing mathematical models as a way to support data analysis and decision-making. Master of Systems and Computing by Military Institute of Engineers, having developed a dissertation in the field of operational research, proposing the mathematical method PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1, along with its computational model, PROMETHEE-SAPEVO.com. He is currently a doctoral student in operational research at the Fluminense Federal University, working in the research line of decision support modeling. With national and international publications, he works with research based at the development of computational models and platforms to support decision-making, with a focus on model-oriented research analysis of decision analysis arising from operational research. Thanks so much to accept my invitation to talk about PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1 and the software where we can calculate the results from the method. First, talk a little bit about yourself, your studies, your family, your hobbies, and so on.
Of course. And first, thank you for the invitation to talk about the method. It's a pleasure for me. And as you say, I'm a production engineer, yes, by graduation. Then I did a master's degree in systems and computer, where I started work with operational research, and now I'm making my doctorate in operational research. Yeah, and it's the
Fluminense University.
Yes, and the PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1 methodology was developed in my master's degree at Military Institute of Engineering, where I did the mathematical model and the computational, that we can input the data and perform the method.
First, where are you from? Brazil?
Brazil, yeah.
Rio de Janeiro.
Yes.
Okay. So, and are you married?
Oh, yeah.
Have kids? Do you have kids?
No, not yet.
Oh,
I just turned 7, but I'm married already.
Are you thinking about kids? Not yet.
After the doctorate.
After the doctorate.
Yes, maybe. Depends.
Well, let's talk about the PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1 method.
All right.
When should I use this method? What kind of problems can I solve using this method?
Oh, yeah, this is an important question. Because this method is based on, I will talk them with a specific. And this method is based in a multi-criteria analysis. In other words, I can say you need to make a choice or make a rank or see what is the best or the worst alternative inside a set And we use this methodology to make a ranking. For example, I'm going to understand who's the first, the second, the third, the fourth, and to the n number of alternatives. And in this way, we work with quantitative and qualitative data. There is a special model because it's a hybrid model. Commonly in operation research, it's very common we work just with one material. Is very famous work just with quantitative, for example, or in some special models we work just with qualitative, but it's hard ever we find a method that works just also with both with quantitative and qualitative analysis. And this way we perform this analysis, and we also deliver a set of types of analysis that we can perform with party or complete by distance intervals, and another analysis that was integrated with the model.
I got it. Wonderful. And I think that the first paper about the method is yours, isn't it? In
Yes.
MDPI, right?
Yes. We have two papers. Yes, at Scopus, in one into 2020 and 121, 2021, both present the method, but of course the paper of MDPI is the most complete, can I say, where we present in details all the axiomatic part of the methodology, then present a case study, a case study of my work, their work in the Navy, in Naval Center of Analysis, and there we develop a study based on the evaluation of helicopters of attack to make operations from Navy. And there we got a hint of these helicopters, understand what's the best choice for if you need to buy or make implementation. They said that they're in the Navy. And we got to understand better how is the performance of each type of helicopter, then we got a ranking of them.
It is important to know, because if somebody will use your method in theses or papers, they will need the reference. So we have two references, and I will put the link of the reference below of our video in our channel.
All right. Then when I'm going to show the software, I can show that also there is a page with all the papers that we published, and there we can find and use and access the papers.
And like I always say, one thing is develop a method, mathematical method. And the other thing is develop a tool, a software. So hard, they both are so hard. And did you develop the software too?
Yes.
And how long? How long you need to develop the software?
Around between 4 and 6 months. Just the software. After the math, everything complete, we start to develop around 4 and 6 months.
And what language did you use to code the method? Python? C?
I use Python, but in this software, I work with Python here, but in this software, I use it especially PHP because it's more simple and have more integration with other languages. JavaScript, we use it, and to structure, we use HTML. Okay,
very good, wonderful. Well, make yourself at home, and let's go to PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1 method.
All right, I can just share my screen. Are you seeing my screen?
Oh yeah, sure.
All right. So let's talk about the PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1. Yeah. But first, let's just present me again. My name is Miguel. Yeah, my name is Miguel Angeleles Moreira. I'm Computational and Mathematical Model Research at Naval System Analysis Center. In graduation, I did production engineering, where then I made my master's degree in system compute at Military Institute of Engineering. And today I'm doing the doctoral student and doctoral student in operational research at Fluminense Federal University. And also I'm research at the, in Portuguese, is the Laboratory of Studies in Governance, Management and Optimization. And also I work as developer, helping the RIVERDATA startup by work implementing mathematical modeling and develop technology.
You have a wonderful background.
Thank you very much. So today we are going to talk about PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1. There is a decision map, a map that helps and work as a D in the to have some decision making. But what's the decision making first? Decision making has been integrated into many activities since 2,000, 3,000 years, 6 million years ago. Always we need to find a best place. I will need to take away a best way to follow. We made any decisions in the morning, in the afternoon, in the night, all the time where we don't make decisions. But we have some decisions that is, how can I say, most complex to make. All right. What type of university I'm going to graduate? What type of master degree I'm going to do? What type of job I'm going to take? And some types of decisions we need to make quantitative analysis, qualitative, and have a help of a methodology in some cases. And I present with the involvement of multiple circumstances and scenarios, or with the increase of variables, the level of complexity related to the analysis of statistics, as there are different points of view and perspective related to importance or preference of a variable in a determined case of point of case in analysis of decision method. And sometimes it's getting more complex when we have multiple persons make the evaluation of the analysis, then we have different types of views having this problem. And it's presented by the Brazilian Operational Research Society, Operation Research, that is here is caso Sobraco. The operation research, a science seeks to solve real problems, focusing on decision making, developing analysis, and apply advanced analytical methods, seeks to obtain favorable solutions in the most diverse areas of human activity. And how we can understand operational research is not strictly just for mathematical or just for exactly science, but we can apply any type of science as medicine, as languages, biology, and any others types. And in operation research, we have the MCDA, or multi-criteria decision analysis, multi-criteria approach. And what is that? It's the area of operational research that allows the instructor to understand and learn of a problem in complex environments, considering risk, uncertainty, in a transparent way, helping obtain answers to problems of variety methods. In other words, we can understand that where we have a multiple criteria, but basically multiple criteria is based in a set of alternatives that I use some type of method. We have any type of method based on multiple criteria approach that we need to understand what's the best with work choice problematic. What is the hint of my alternatives? In other words, what's the best and what is the worst or not favorable solution? And classification or sorting, where what's the best set? What is the worst set of alternatives that I have had my problem? And it's very important to say that when we work with criterion analysis, we don't look for optimal result, but 5 row results concern my problem. And here we have a design of what is the concept of multi-criteria. Basically, we have a set of alternatives and a set of criteria, and each type of alternative has an importance or a preference or performs each type of criteria. And we need to make all these sets in aggregation model, understand first what's the best choice in each type of case or each type of criteria, and aggregate it in search of a rank of alternatives or choice to understand what's the best choice or what I need to do and what I don't need to do or it's not good for us. And it's very famous say that we have two types of schools that is present in literature, the American and the French school. The first school is based on the aggregation models. Based on chip theory, in this context, two types of preference relations are possible to obtain, namely preference, where we have a strict preference between two types of alternatives, and indifference. In the other word, we have the French school based on outranking methods, where we can have preference, strict preference, weak preference, indifference, and incompatibility. This incompatibility is very important because I'm going to explain them with more detail, and every this type of preference is related with the PROMETHEE method. That is the base of your study today. The PROMETHEE is the preference rank organization method for enrichment evaluation and was proposed by Brans, Van and Marisco in 1984, and it's classified as a non-computatory method handled with rank problems where a set of alternatives evaluate under multiple criteria, which are often complete. As I present, we have a set of alternatives that I'm going to be evaluated in a set of criteria, and then I'm going to get a rank of these alternatives from the best to the worst as solution for my problem. And it's very important to say that PROMETHEE is not just one method. Of course, there is axiomatic base in this model, but it's a family today with 24 models. That the model that developed the PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1 is the 24, and this is one of the motivation to develop another model, where we have a set of models, but all them concentrated in cardinal analysis, where we have numerical punctuation. But when we work with real decisions, very common you have some type of variables that is not so easy to measure. Yes, we have just idea of where is best, if you want is worse, if one is not feasible, but we don't have a cardinal input. If it is 1, if it's 2, if it's $1.2, $3.4, for example. And this way, we search develop a model that integrates just cardinal and ordinal in one type of analysis. In this way, we look for the SAPEVO-M method, that is the simple aggregation of precedent expressed by ordinal vectors, multi-decision makers. In this way, we have one side the PROMETHEE method with cardinal, and the other side the SAPEVO-M method with ordinal analysis. And the SAPEVO methodology, we can work with variable inputs, where we have absolutely better, much better, best, equivalent, worse, much worse, and absolutely worse, where we use the set of variable inputs to make comparison analysis between a set of alternatives, a set of criteria, a set of variables. And then we can convert into punctuation that will make feasible and make viable. We get a cardinal represent the numerical importance of this variable inside a scenario, right? And we make the integration of PROMETHEE with SAPEVO-M, generate the SAPEVO-M1 methodology. And what's the M1? Because some methods work with group analysis, and our method work with monodecision analysis, where we have just one decision maker, or we have a set, a group of decisions but make the analysis with consensus, all right? And following the analysis, we have a set of some steps that we need to follow. Where first, we need to make the structure of variables. First, structure the alternatives and the set of criteria, where we have the qualitative and quantitative criteria, or if necessary, can work just with one type of nature, qualitative or quantitative. But as I say, it's very common with the real decision problems, we have both nature in the analysis. And make the structure of alternatives and criteria. If we have both nature work first with qualitative criteria, evaluate the alternatives concern each type of criteria in the qualitative nature, and then if you have quantitative, we evaluate the alternatives in the quantitative criteria. After the evaluation of alternatives in the both nature, we go to steps the criteria weights. And just change the point here. Here, back. We establish the criteria weights with various analysis. I'm going to explain them. And then we'll be taking the preference, global index, and the out-rank flows, where we make viable. We have 4 types of analysis. First one is the preference analysis by partial out-ranking. Then we have the preference analysis by complete or total out-ranking. Then analysis by interval. And the last one is the intercriterion analysis by that result, where the intercriterion generated just by the analysis of alternatives inside the criteria. Don't need necessary use the weight to generate. And it's very important to say that the 4 types of analysis work together. We get sensibility analysis, where we can perform and have a better understanding of our results. But let's go to understand better how is the performance of math. I have this error here. Here. All right, I'm going to explain the axiomatic part with the mathematical, and then we'll make a simple case study to understand how performs the math and the values there. All right, let's consider that we have a set of alternatives that we need to evaluate and need to understand what's the better and what's the rank of alternatives concern a set of criteria, and taking account the preference side of alternatives inside each type of criteria. Right? And consider a set of alternatives. I can have a set of qualitative and a set of quantitative criteria. As I say, first we need to evaluate the qualitative analysis or the qualitative criteria. In this way, we use a variable input and perform here a comparison analysis, for example, where I have, for example, a criterion, A1, and I need to evaluate A1, A2, and A3. And in this way, we need to evaluate this part, where is just the reciprocal. For example, A1 is better, is worse than A2. And I can say that A1, this criteria, A1 is much better than A2. And A1 is absolutely better than A3. And I can say that A2 is much better, is just best or better than A3. In this way, we can set punctuation, and here we can set the reciprocal analysis. Consider this punctuation, we are going to make an analysis to get a cardinal analysis or cardinal preference of each type of alternative inside the criteria. From the process, we make the sum of the lines. In this way, we sum the preference of A1 concern A2 and A3, the A2 concern A1 and A3, and then A3 concern A1 and A2. Get respectively 5, -1, and -4. While we use this function to make the normalization of these punctuations, insert to find a cardinal punctuation that we get from 0 to 1. represent the preference normalized. I can evaluate all criteria together. All right, following this idea, we got a punctuation here, a cardinal analysis, cardinal punctuation, where we have E1 equal 1, E2 0.33, for example, and E3 didn't present any preference, represent 0. But performs the model that is present in the Promethee analysis that are performed with the difference between alternatives, we get the difference between the alternatives inside this criteria. In other words, we get the difference of A1 minus 8.3, A1 minus 0, then 0.3 minus 1, then 0.3 minus 0. Get the performance and the correspondence performance of other alternatives. Make a simple normalization just to have a population between 0 and 1 for all alternatives in all type of criteria. We get to understand that A1 is better than A2, then and they're better than A3, and then A2 is better than A3 with a numerical punctuation. I'm going to save this matrix of difference, and I'm going to evaluate now the same alternatives regarding the quantitative criteria. Following the process, we must first need to make a comparison, but what's the difference when we work with quantitative analysis? In this case, I have the numerical punctuation. I have a numerical cardinal entrance, a cardinal input. And this way, we just need to make the normalization and then convert these values into 0 and 1. All right, let's go to make the difference. Here we have a very simple question that is, if we need, it's a criteria of maximization, or what's maximization, where I have to best performance. Yes, when I go to a variable that I need to increase, I use this function where we need to make the variable of analysis minus the variable of comparison. In the word side, when we need to make a minimization, then a variable that I need to increase, to decrease, or when more lower is the value, better is the alternative. A custom monotone, as we can say. We need to evaluate this by the comparison minus the variable of analysis, is the other type. On the process, which is one type, I'm going to work with maximization, in this case. And we first make 10 minus 30, that is minus 20, then 10 minus 22, that is minus 12, and for the last one, we make the 30 minus 22, that is 8. In this way, we get a matrix of difference, as we did before, but we have to make the normalization. And as presented in Promethee family, is a very important question. That is, for making normalization, I need to set one type of function. There is present by the methodology 6 types of function: the usual, the U-shape, the V-shape, the level, V-shape 1, and Gaussian function. If each type performs in a different mode, of course. And what's the best function to use? It's not simple to say, but because we need to use to understand for the set of data, for you choose a favorable analysis, a favorable function to make the implementation. But it's very common we see in the papers and the studies the V-shape 1 by the one that we can perform the indifference and a preference result, and then make a linear analysis by that is crazy together with the values. All right. In the usual, the result of difference is just higher than 0. We get 1. More than 0, you get 1. The U-shape, we perform different result. In other words, we just get the punctuation 1 when we are higher the level of of indifference. Then we have the V-shape, that we get a linear performance from 0 to 1, where we need to set a value. There is the preference, the strict preference, and if this value is under or lower than the P, there is the preference. So we get a linear bar make this equation. Then we have the level. There we can have 0, half, and 1. In other words, if you are lower than K, you get 0. If you are higher than P, you get 1. And if you are between K and P, you have half, or half punctuation. Then we have the V-shape 1. There is the most used, as I say. There, if you are under K, you get 0. If you are higher P, you get 1. If you are higher K and under P, you get this equation. There is a linear function to see how is the performance inside this function. And the last one, we use the Gaussian that represent as the part of the change in the code. It's not very common to use it. It's hard to ever find some studs, but this is the function if you need to use and understand how to use this function. All right. And after choosing a specific function, we make the normalization of difference and performs a numerical value between 0 and 1. Represent how important is this variable inside this criteria. If you use this number, you can understand that A2 is the best alternative in the analysis, but we need to use the other criteria in your favor. All right, we finish the evaluation of alternatives inside each type of criteria, and then we are going to evaluate the criteria and understand how important is each one, what's the preference, and what is the cardinal punctuation that we need to make the applicants that it is concerned or preference. We keep using this table as an as performance between -3 and 3 represents our preference between horizon analysis. From this analysis, we can say that C1 is much better than C2, C1 is much better than C3, and C2 is just better or less than C3. In this number, we make the sum as we did before, where the sum of values get for C1 as 4, C2 as -1, and C3 as -3. And we have this little difference when we compare with the qualitative analysis. In this way, we don't use the maximum and the minimum for normalization, but we use a variable called minimum sum and maximum sum. Minimum sum is the minimal punctuation that I can get here any type of within any type of alternatives, any type of number of criteria is better. And the maximum sum is the value that represents the maximum possible value to get when I have any type of number of variables. In other words, minimum sum is n-1 multiplied by -3, and then maximum sum is n-1 multiplied by 3. In the way, we get a range of punctuation, and then we can deliver, distribute our punctuation of our criteria inside this range, represent what is the preference and what's the cardinal that we can indicate for a type of criteria. And then we can understand that how approximately is the maximum sum better, is the criteria most important is, and as it is near of minimum sum, we can understand that this criteria is not so important as we can think there is. All right, and take this distribution and this proximity, we can understand a cardinal punctuation where we are going to use this equation, where here we have the sum of punctuation, and here we apply the minimum sum, the maximum sum, minus the minimum sum. As presented here in this equation, we can get a punctuation, cardinal punctuation. As we can understand that C1 is the most important criterion, followed by C2 and then C3. But we didn't finish the analysis, where we need to make a normalization and set all the sum of weights need to be equal 1. And this way we get C1 as $0.5, C2 $0.27, and C3 $0.617, more or less. All right. Here we finish. Now we have the weights of criterion and the preference, the cardinal punctuation of alternatives in the quantitative and qualitative criteria. On the process, we are going to make the aggregation analysis and generate our index of preference or global index. In other words, selecting alternatives, we can have this punctuation, and we perform some flows of importance. And what's these flows? We have a global punctuation represent the preference, consider all criteria of alternatives, the other alternatives, A1, A2, A1 to A3, A1 compared to A4, A5, etc. For this, the sum of this preference represents a positive flow, positive outrank flow. In other words, we have the performance of other alternatives and A1, where we have a negative flow, negative outrank flow. And what's the flow is important. How higher is the positive flow and how lower is the negative flow, better is the alternatives in my analysis. For this example, we use the three types of preference analysis that I said before. The first one is the partial outranking that will represent the positive and the negative flows. How higher and how lower is the flow in the flows of one alternative, there is the alternative is concerned the other. How if the lower is, if the negative flow is higher and the positive is lower, the alternative is not good for my problem, or I can say that is not feasible to resolve a solution. And how important is to make a right choice is understand what's not favorable to do, right? From the process, we're going to make the total or complete outranking. This is more simple. We just get the positive flow and the negative flow, where the positive flow minus the negative flow, I can get a net flow. Yeah, in this example, we have $0.82 minus $1.56. We get minus $0.64, for example, for the E1. Deliver this in a range understand the distance between the distance of preference and understand better how the alternative is performed and the orders. It's more simple and more useful. If you look for the Promethee, you see that is this analysis from Promethee-2 that is very famous as well. Okay, and for the last preference analysis, the other analysis is not preference, it's just by that. This is the last one that work with intervals and performs a standard error that is scale. In this example, we get the standardization of variables of the net flow, and we get this numerical analysis that is represented by the standard error, and the sum of this numerical value with the net flow represent upper limit, and when I get the subtraction of the value, we get the upper and the lower limit. When I take both the limits, I can get interval of an x. And after I deanalyze the punctuation, a cardinal value, I use an interval. By the moment that is interval is free, I don't have an intersection between these parallel lines, this is preferable to the others. By the moment that I have intersection of this interval, we get the inference preference, as I can see. Here it's a strict preference. Here it's not preference, but it is indifferent. And just for understand, when I say that A5 is preferable to A4 and A4 is not preferred to A2, not necessary. A5 is not preferable to A2 because here we get the analysis of oh, I forgot the name, is the I forgot now. But just when the transaction. This when I have this analysis, I have the intersection of the preference. In other words, if A is better than B and B is not better than C, not necessarily A is not better than C. All right. On the analysis, we have the last one, that is the intracriterion analysis by best result. Here we don't get our criteria for analysis, but this one as an example, and we need just to understand what's the higher difference between the alternatives inside one type of criteria, and this value become the value pursued. In other words, it's just to represent, if necessary, if it's necessary to represent. For example, we can have an alternative that's not favorable when considering all the set, when considering all criteria, but when we consider just one type, this is very favorable. For example, and just for understanding better how the data is processed. All right. Here we finish the analysis, the mathematical explanation, the axiomatic explanation. You know, we can present some stories. Then I would like to present this software and a case for understanding in the practice how performs the analysis. All right. Something that we did, we have used it in every Brazilian Navy and educational and organization here in Brazil and outside of Brazil as well. We have used the PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1 to analyze, to make evaluation of drones to the Brazilian Navy, where we performed a set of drones regarding 14 criteria, where we had five qualitative criteria and 9 quantitative criteria, and we get to understand how is the most favorable, what's the most favorable set of drones to make architectural acquisition or make implementation, and also we got to understand what's not so good to make implementation. Here we have an analysis of some best improve the Amazon operational. Then this, the MDPI is the most important paper concerning the PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1. Here we got to explain all the methodologies, present all the steps in detail with the equations and numerical application, and what's present the methodology, and present also the computational tool. We use to evaluation helicopters for attack operations of attack and combat. We can use an evaluation set of criteria as well, with qualitative and quantitative. And here we have evaluation of banks. As we understand in the world today, it's very common. We use just mobile, and we use mobile and online service. But what we have in the past, some agencies represent physical service. But today, it's better we close one agency, of course, allocate the employees in other agencies, but using this discuss to make the increase of technology services. And this way, we use a set of banks in a city of Brazil, a set of 5 banks, and understand what's the best place to be closed instead of understanding what's the best performance, I would like to understand what's the most favorite close or the bank with the worst performance. Yeah, in this way, we got to understand what was this bank and favor and make an analytical analysis for understanding better. All right. And we presented also this map in the last Euro 2021. It was in Athens, but by the COVID, we got made it by hybrid. It was by online presentation, and we present the PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1 methodology there. It was very cool present. And also we had last year a paper based in the evaluation of simple drones. Of course, it's not PAS, but just the drones that are used to evaluation and make what's the best drone or favorable drone to support the defense and security in the cities employed by the Brazilian police. All right.
Miguel, what paper that they are in Scopus?
And this one is getting this month.
Oh, yeah.
Now, today we are in
Procedure Computer Science.
Procedure Computer Science.
And another
we
one.
have this one that is MDPI, Algorithms Journal. And we have this one, there is a book chapter. There is of Elsevier also. Is a book chapter of the EJC on of 2020.
And that paper published in Springer.
Yes, it's the last one. Yes, Springer Elsevier. There is the book chapter.
Yeah, sure.
This was the first one, but is the principal because it's bigger and more detailed. And it's the algorithm journal. All right. So for our presentation now, I would like to present a case study. Of course, a simple case study. We can understand the mathematics behind the map and see how the values are applied.
It's easier to understand a numerical example than axiomatic structure. I think
axiomatic, a lot of symbol, a lot of equation here is a little easier.
Usually it's more simple numerical examples.
Yeah. In this way, we are going to evaluate a set of ERP, Enterprise Resource Planning. It's software for management that is very famous to make the application in company to help the manage logistics and production. In this case, we have a set of 5 alternatives: SARP, Oracle, TOTS, Micro, and EBRP. Evaluate concerning 4 types of criteria. They are price, complexity, security, and performance. Complexity and security, we are going to evaluate in a qualitative way, and the price and performance are going to evaluate in a quantitative way. In this analysis, first, as I said, we need to evaluate the alternatives concerning the qualitative. In this way, we are going to evaluate concerning complexity. What's the most complex software? In this way, we used to make the input based on the variable table where we have a set of 7 points of performance. That I can say that SERP is absolutely better or minus complexity than in relation of Oracle. There is much better than TOTS. There is best in Micro and EBRP. In this way, we get punctuation, and we need to make this sum and get a final punctuation. After get this punctuation, we make use of this equation, where what represents the equation. Here is the value of sum. In this way is 5 minus 9 minus 5 is 0 or 9. And what's the minimum of here? The minimum is minus 9 and the max is 9. In this way, we are going, for example, the 5 means -9, divided by 9 means -9, and we can get a numerical punctuation varying from 0 to 1. Represent this importance of each type of alternatives inside this project. In this way, we can understand that EBRP and CRP, SERP is the minus complex, the most favorable in this criteria. All right. But as I said, we work with a Promethee methodology where we work with the difference of cardinal punctuation. As I said, complexity. We need to use the alternative of analysis minus the alternative of comparison, and we get a difference between these values in a matrix. And then we use this equation that is simple, just to make it basically here we get all the negative values and become it 0. And then the positive value keep the same, all right? And here we have the difference, a matrix of difference, represent the preference between 0 and 1 concerning the set of alternatives. Here I finish the evaluation of alternatives in the complexity. Now I'm going to make the same evaluation of alternatives, but now concerning the security. In following this analysis, we have the same set of alternatives. Then we're going to make the punctuation between alternatives and represent how important is each type of alternatives concerning security. Use the equation of normalization. We can make the applied of values and get our numerical importance getting from 0 to 1, where TOTS is the most secure and SCRP is not so secured in our preference, of course. On the analysis, we get the cardinal punctuation, present here, the equation. We get the difference, where I get some positive and some negative. Then we use this equation just to take the negative values and become into 0. All right. And here we finish the quantitative analysis, finish the normalization, and get the difference between the set of alternatives and the security criteria. All right. Here we finish the qualitative. Now we are going to evaluate the quantitative analysis. First, the quantitative we have the price. There is we have already the numerical values of each software. For example, STRP is 15,000, 29,000, 38,000, 24,000, 25, and 500. And we need to minimize, or as cheaper is better. We are going to use the linear function or the V-shaped one using the key. There is 2 and P, the preference as 5,000. And as we said, we are going to evaluate using this function, where is the comparison value minus the value of analysis put into fill if you like. All right. In the way we got this difference, and for example, as SERP, each here are 29 minus 15, 38 minus 15, 24 minus 15, 25.5 minus 50, and we can get 14, 23, 9, and 10.5. All right. All this analysis, we got just the punctuation, but we need to make a normalization to understand how it is important with a value from 0 to 1. The values need to be normalized. Using this equation, that is the linear function, we can understand if the value of difference is lower than 2 or lower or equal than 2, we got 0, we got no preference. If it's higher than 5, we got preference. If it's between 2 and 5, we got to make the application of this equation that we got a linear preference. And we have almost a binary matrix here. It's 0, 1, and 1, just 1, 0.5. And this matrix of difference represent the preference between the alternatives in the criteria price. All right. We finished the first one, and now we need to evaluate the Performance, there is based a number of tasks that each software can do in 1 hour, for example. And here we have the function that we are going to use. Here we need to make a maximization, or how higher is best, the alternative, where you are going to use the linear function or V-shaped one and use it T as 10 and P as 10. All right, this here P, we are going to make this evaluation of this line, for example, 50 minus 110, 50 minus 9, 50 minus 20, 75, and 50 minus 85. We got this punctuation, and we are now need to make the normalization of these values, understand what's the reference with a value from 0 to 1 of this difference. If this is an account using key as 10 and p as 20, as I say, if the difference is lower or equal than 10, we represent as 0. If they're higher than 20 or 20, it's 1. If it is between 10 and 20, we use this equation, where we almost again got a binary matrix, where I have some 0, some 1 that represent the strict preference, and 0.5 represent a linear punctuation, for example, from thoughts concerning micro, that is to 1. All right, here we finish the analysis of alternatives, and now we need to evaluate the criteria and understand what's the weights of each criteria we are analyzing. In the process, here are the 4 matrices or 4 criteria analysis with concerning the alternatives, and now we are going to evaluate the criteria. Again, we are going to use this table, as the variable table with the punctuations. We are going to set if the better, best, absolute better, or worse each criteria. Complexity in relation to security is much worse. It's not so important. Security is the most important. For example, security concerning price is much better, and concerning performance is absolutely better. And price concerning performance is just equal or equivalent. In this way, we get the sum of lines, and we are going to get the minimal sum and the maximum sum, where we got the range of punctuation, the maximum and the minimum punctuation possible in our case, and we distribute the values obtained in this range. Making this process, we get a cardinal punctuation. As example, complexity 0.27, almost 2080, security 0.889, represent as the most important. Price is 0.444, and performance is 0.3839. And then make this sum always be equal to 1. We got the complex as 0.4%, security almost 45%, price 22%, and performance almost 20% of represent the respectively importance of each criteria. All right, now we have all the punctuation of alternatives inside each type of criteria. Now we have the weights of criteria. Now we need to make the aggregation model that we take everything into account and generate a punctuation. Make the ponderation, everything together, we can get this punctuation that will represent this cardinal analysis, represent the performance of each alternative, aggregate the order from this set, and we have to make the sum of the lines of the count to understand the flows, and get a partial, total, and analysis by intervals. All right, first we need to make the positive flow. There is the sum of the lines, or the sum of the performance of one alternative concern the other. The sum of the column is the evaluation of performance of other alternative negative 1. And like I said, how higher is the positive, how lower is the negative flow, where is the alternative in your NS. And here we have the net flow. All right. Following the analysis, the first one is the partial analysis, where you can understand that the SERP is not so favorable because presented the higher negative flow and the lower positive flow. The good is then the other part, that is how higher is the positive and lower is the negative. In this way, we got higher EBRP and thoughts, and EBRP present the lower negative flow, represent that it's dominates good. But between when we evaluate between EBRP and thoughts between each other, we understand that it has an incomparability analysis, making it necessary to make the second analysis by the net flow evaluation. In this way, we use the net flow. There we have just punctuation represented the performance, consider opportunity, consider all the preference, and we understand that the best choice here is the EBRP with the higher net flow, followed by the micro, then the thoughts, or and last one SERP represent as the non-favorable alternatives in your case. And to finish, we have the analysis by interval. All these charts that I'm using is from the software that we are going to make them and represent as the performance. And here we use the net flow, the grade, the standard interval, then we can get the intervals and represent it in intervals. In this way, we understand that EBRP and micro got the intersection, and before it was preferable, EBRP was preferred to micro, but now they are indifferent, as we are going to evaluate by this intersect, the interval. Also, we understand that micro is indifferent to thoughts, indifferent to work, and work is different to SERP. But on the non-transitive analysis, we understand that even EBRP is indifferent to micro, EBRP keeps preferable to thoughts. All right, because there is an intersection, or the lower limit is higher than the upper limit. All right. First, we finish the evaluation of the set of the case or case study. Now, if you like, we can go to the software and understand better how it is applied and how it can perform, and make the analysis with the software and see the numerical and graphical resource that is better this. All right.
So the method seems very hard when you see the axiomatic structure, but when you see a numerical example, you see that the method makes sense.
Yes.
And it is not so hard that we think. And I think this method is very interesting because we can work with quantitative and qualitative criteria.
Yes.
So it's very, very interesting because in real problems, usually we have the both criteria, qualitative and quantitative.
In the most of cases.
Exactly.
We have it.
Definitely.
Yeah, sometimes we have the numeric value, but we don't have a certain about it. We don't have accuracy, and we need to use ordinal inputs, or we have when we don't have precision, and we need to use ordinal, and this help that we can use both, just the quantitative and the qualitative performance. All right.
Definitely. So now we will see the platform, the software, the computational platform. Let's talk about the software that you developed at the Military Institute of Engineering.
Yes, the software is very simple to access. We just need to access internet, where we need to use this URL, this link, PROMETHEE.com. we just don't use the M1 because if we change the modeling now, we can use this link, the same link, and just need to set PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1. There we go to access.
So at first, let's
All
answer the following question. Why is it important to develop a software, to develop a computational platform? What do you think? Why is it important?
The first part, when we work with operational methods, operational research methods, even if it's simple, there is a problem. We have a large set of data that we are going to make it with the hands. It's not fair. The second, there we have a currency of inputs.
Even if I know math, it's hard to work with so many data.
Yes, it's hard. We work. You think we work with 100, 1,000, 1 million intersection of interaction. It's not fair.
It's very hard.
In the other side, we can enable for everyone using. Actually, for applied this method, I don't need to understand all the minimal step in the detail of the type. I just need to understand what I need to input and make my interpretation of the results. And there we can apply in medical analysis, we can apply in business, we can apply in mathematical, in military problems, because this is just one methodology that we can use. But when you use the literature, you have hundreds of methodologies. And it's almost impossible to understand in detail all of them. We don't have memory for it. But if you understand the basic concept, we can understand how it's applied and what type of data I can use and make the implementation and make the interpretation of the results.
Definitely.
Right.
I always say that everybody hates math. So thousand people hate math. So, dude, I don't know math. I hate it. So how can I calculate the huge expressions? So it's very hard. I hate math. So, like you said, if you understand the idea, the general idea, with this computational platform, you can apply the method, even if you don't know so much math.
Of course.
You don't need to know the minimum details about the equations.
We just need to understand the general, the basic concept, and of course, make the interpretation of the results and the graphics, but we don't need to work in the hard part of mathematics.
So excellent. Let's go to computational platform.
Just X here. As you can say, we just needed to make the X to the side. PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1.
First, we have to type
PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1. There is.
Yes.
I present here, just here. PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1. And in this side, we can change, because I'm in Brazil, in this way we develop in Portuguese.
We can use in Portuguese or in English.
Yeah, but today we're going to work with English, that is better. And let me just represent some pages of this side. Here we have explanation. Here we have the research that we published about the math. So in this way we have all these papers where I can just make a click here. That we're going to set to the paper that was published and explain all the methodology.
So It's
And
very easy to find the papers.
yeah, we
Apply
just need
now.
to click here and we are delivered to the website with the PDF of the
Very
method.
easy to find.
And here we have the title and here the abstract of each study.
So,
It's
excellent.
very simple. And then, if you like, we have a tutorial. Here we can just understand better the...
And we need two classes, two links here in English. We have...
yes.
Yeah?
We just need
Okay.
to
In
click
Portuguese?
here and you're going,
Oh, yeah.
you are going to send for a link of YouTube.
Okay.
Where there we can have access in the Portuguese and the English class,
Excellent.
of course. And here, just a tutorial explain the model and what you need to click and what you need to make the insertion. All right. But let's go for the most important. That is the implementation and see what we need to do to make a set and make an analysis. In the way we are going to do
The same example.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to present the same example that I did before of ERP, just for understand. And here is not, I don't want to represent a new context, but just to represent how the software works and how it can perform and how we can make the evaluation and use all the tools inside this platform. In this way, we just need to type a title and then select area. I'm going to put engineering and I'll propose academic, of course, just for understanding. I'm going to click in start evaluation. Here we have the three sets we can set. The first one is the alternative set, then the qualitative set, and then the quantitative criteria set. As I said, if I don't want to use just want performance, I just let them work just with quantitative. If I have just qualitative, I can just delete the quantitative, but as I said, it's clear when we have both quantitative and qualitative, we can have both. All right. In our context, we had five alternatives and 2 qualitative criteria and 2 quantitative. Just take the name here, just a minute. Alternatives we have the ACRP, then we have the ORAC, the TOTS, the micro, and then the EBRP. For qualitative, we have complexity, and then security. And quantitative, we have price and performance. All right, I finished my set. I'm going to just click in continue. Here we have the pairized analysis as I present. I can see it's not necessary to input any type of number. We just need to see if one alternative or the other is absolutely worse, much worse, equivalent, best, much better, and absolutely better. And this way, we're going to say that ECRP complex is absolutely better, then is much better, then is best, and best than ERP. Concern the second that is ORAC. We say that ORAC in relation to TOTS is worse, then is much worse, and then is absolutely worse. In other words, we can understand that ORAC is complex to work. All right, and TOTS now we're going to say there is worse and then much worse in complex, and micro is just much worse. All right. For the analysis, we're going to evaluate in relation to security, and ECRP is not so secure in relation to working in this way, is worse, then is absolutely worse, and much worse and much worse. The ORAC is -2 -1, -1, or much worse and worse. But it best then micro and best the ERP, and micro is equal to ERP. All right. Here are things. I make all this set. I just need to, if you have any question about it, we just need to click here and we have a pop-up of information what we can select and make the evaluation. And after the analysis, we just need to click in continue. We are going to evaluate the quantitative analysis. Here, as we know, we have already the numerical inputs. In this way, the price is 15, then is 29, then is 38, 24, and 25.5. The function is minimization, and we perform the V-shaped one. The performance is 50, 110, 90, 75, and the last one is 85. All right, you need to maximize, and we use the V-shaped one. Oh, we don't have the continue because first we need to set the thresholds. And as difference for price, we have 2, and for preference, we have 5, and for performance, we have 10 for difference and 20 for preference. All right, now we have the continue button. We just need to click here. For the analysis, we are going to evaluate the last one. There are the criteria, and here we just need to say that complexity is much less important than security, complex is less important than price, and complex is less important than performance, because I need security in this way. Security is going to be more important, much more important, and the security is absolutely more important than performance, and price is equal or equivalent than performance. Perfect. You see that is very simple, just need to obtain the results to make our numerical and graphical analysis. Here we got the punctuation, where we understand that ERP was the most important, then micro, thoughts, work, and the last one is the ERP. And here we have the positive, the negative flows, as I present in the matrix of difference, the matrix of global index, and we have the net flows. But we know that we like more details in graphical resource, we have the detail page. There we can understand more the analysis and have the analysis by intervals as well. All right, the first one, we can have the punctuation, the cardinal punctuation concerning the portfolio analysis. We understand that the EBRP was so important than us, but here, as I say, in the evaluation, in the case study, it's got an incomparability that we need to make a second analysis, understand how each one is better. We are going to make the total analysis. You understand that EBRP was the best one, followed by micro, then thoughts, arc, and the last one is the ECRP. Here we have the analysis by intervals, where we have the EBRP is indifferent to micro, but is preferable to thoughts. And we have all the and along with this graph, we have a graph as well, represent the dominance between alternatives in the two types of analysis. The partial preference, where we can understand that the best ones, the EBRP, that represent dominance concerning SRP, ORC, and micro, and thoughts represent.
And look that this is another area from operational research.
Yes. Yeah. And this integrated. It's very important to say that all, and very common, how can I say, all
different methodology in the same
all different methodologies and areas of operational research and work together, integrate
The same problem.
Yeah, the same problem. And for example, we say that EBRP didn't present dominance to thoughts and we understand the comparability analysis, but when we go to the second analysis to understand that EBRP represent a preference. But along with this, we have the evaluation by value result, where here we have the complexity, the security, the price, and the performance. When we evaluate this complex to understand that ECRP, MBRP, EBRP was the best choice, the best one. When we evaluate this security to understand the thoughts was the best one. When we evaluate this, the price, ECRP was the best. But when we evaluate SCRP, we evaluate the performance to understand that Oracle was the best. It's very important to understand that ECRP was the worst alternative in the analysis, but represent a good performance in two types of analysis, in two types of criteria when we look just the value. But we need to say that we don't consider the weights or importance of preference in the criteria, just the performance of alternative in type of criteria. After the moment that we make the integration, the aggregation process, consider all the preference, we understand that ECRP was not so good integrated. All right. Along with the evaluation, we have a distillation process, distillation analysis, that is also called the Hunt reversal process. What is it? When we remove some variable or criteria alternatives, we can improve, we can present changes. For example, if I consider just the qualitative, I click here, and I have a different result. Where when we consider this quantitative analysis, we understand that work was the best, and then the EBRP. But when we consider this the qualitative, if we remove, we can make the evaluation again, and we have another scenario where we have the thoughts as the best one.
Again, we calculate another result.
Yeah, but if we get the 4 criteria but remove the best one that was EBRP, we perform again, we can understand and have a new scenario when micro is the best one. And if you take off the SRP and the EBRP, that was the best and the worst alternative, have just the mid.
And we can work with different scenarios.
Yes, and perform them, remove
criteria, alternatives.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful.
It's very good when as we say, it's very common. When we get the results, we are just in the middle of the analysis. The real analysis starts after the results. We are going to make we call the sensibility analysis, where it performs error, if I remove, if I increase this weight, if I increase this preference, what can I get? And this way,
like I say to my students, this software, this computational platform, it is only a calculator. The software cannot work miracles. You need to analyze the data, the results.
Exactly.
I think this is the most important work from the scientist.
Yeah, as we say in operational research, we can take any model, we can take any software. Any one model we make decision. The model just work as support of a decision. The software help us to implement a set of numbers in a calculator.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
Who need to take the decision is the decision maker, the analyst. But we develop the models and the tools to support that.
I always say that the method the method doesn't work miracle.
Yeah, never. Just make the mix of the numbers and represent and making an interpretation. And if you need to,
the software, they can
yes,
work miracle.
And here, if you need to come back with the real analysis, just select every one and just click and perform, and we have our analysis again. And here we just need to change to graphic. And this is the software. I hope you have enjoyed the presentation, the model, the case study. And as you say, the method is was complete. Yeah, work with it quantitative and qualitative. We developed the software that work in web, work on internet, and you don't need to make installation of anything. We can work with any type of computer, of operational system, and it's very easy. If we need to have any doubt about how it works, what I can do, we can. Here is my contact.
Yes, wonderful.
Can
send us a message.
Yes, if you access the PROMETHEE-SAPEVO-M1, we can see my contacts there as well. Here you can just send me mail, contact my LinkedIn and my associate. There I can. It's be a pleasure to help and make the improvement of this model and help the world to make better decisions.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I saw that the software is very useful and very easy to use, extremely easy to use. And I think it is important tools like that because sometimes it's so hard to work with mathematical models. And like I said, many people hate math. So this platform allows that everyone can use your method. And you only need to fill in the values and the software calculate the result quickly.
Yes, we just need to what type of values we are going to input and then make the interpretation of result. But as I say, we just need to understand the basic concept. We don't need to understand all the details as what is A1, what's B, but just need to understand the basic concept and make the implementation set of data.
So, and like you said, I realized that you don't need to download any software. It already runs directly in the browser. It's wonderful.
It's the best way to develop today.
Definitely.
Cloud technology.
Professor, thank you so much for your presentation. It was an honor for us to have you here today. And my friends, thanks so much for watching this video. And here in our channel, YouTube channel, Operational Research House, we have more than 400 classes about many different methods, about graph theory, keyword theory, linear programming, simulation, and many other methods. So if you like it, if you like this video, give us your thumbs up and subscribe on our YouTube channel, and see you later, and bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you then.